All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. I just want to first off say thank you all so much for coming out to the first edition of Night School. So it should be fun. We got 3 of these over the course of the summer, each coming on an early Tuesday in the midst of that month. And so I'm really excited for this, but just to give us a chance to kind of know one another, because I think there's probably a lot of us who know each other, and then some of us who don't know each other as well. So let's do this. Let's go around with maybe your name, and then if you teach, well, like what's the capacity in which you teach? You know, what's your interest in being here? I guess those are kind of tied together. So yeah, where do you serve in a teaching capacity? And then what's your interest in this kind of get together in particular? So name. All right, sweet. Well, yeah, I'm really excited for this. We've got like an hour and a half together. You know, I'll make sure that we land the plane definitely by 7:30 at the latest. But the goal is, 3 sessions over the course of the summer. The first one to be, is that big enough that everyone can see? Or should I, yeah?
Can you blow it?
Blow it up? Okay. I think I can.
3 zooms.
View. Command plus?
Command plus.
Oh, 3 zooms, perfect. Even the shortcut. This guy's a professional. Okay, so we got 3 sessions that we'll do. First one in June, we're going to talk about content. Session number 2 is going to be about delivery. And session 3 will be, I'm just calling it trials, because the idea is tonight what we'll cover is what it looks like to actually put together content. That one's how do we go about delivering it, and then week 3, the idea, or month 3, session 3, the idea is by the time we get there, we've all kind of developed something, and we can take turns, basically delivering it to each other, which I think will be a lot of fun. So that's where we're going. When I was a resident at a church, I had a chance to take part in something called a preaching cohort that was basically just this very same content, and it was incredibly helpful for me. So super valuable, and I'm hoping that you all find it valuable as well. So when we get into content, I guess even beyond that, here's my thinking and why this is something that I wanted to do, and even why, in the summer in particular. I grew up playing sports. I had older brothers who were like really good at sports, and so you idolize them and you want to be like them. And one of the things that my dad would often say is that athletes are made in the summer. They're made in the off season, right? That it's not enough to just kind of show up when the season starts and to do your best then, but at that point it's actually kind of too late. That if you want to grow and develop in something, making use of the off season is significant. And so we're kind of in the off season where like groups are paused, classes are paused. None of that's really happening. Student ministry is paused. Children's ministry never pauses, but ideally we've all got a little bit more time to invest into something like this and to invest in the broader teaching ministry here at the campus. Because here's what I think is true, that a strong teaching ministry is vital to the health and growth of a community like ours, right? Every Sunday we have conversations in the classrooms upstairs and in the auditorium, and we're singing songs that turn our attention to certain truths that are all coming directly out of the Bible. And so it's a teaching ministry across the board that is basically communicating biblical truth in a way that's clear, that's understandable, where people can kind of wrestle with it, make sense of it, and understand what it means for their lives so that they can build their lives upon it. That's really what we're doing each and every Sunday and even throughout the week, especially throughout kind of the main seasons of the ministry year. And because all of us play a role in teaching in some way, every single one of us, we're actually part of the teaching ministry here at the Lehigh campus. And so when we invest in any one of us as a teacher, we're investing in the entire teaching ministry, which flows down to help everyone within the context of this community grow in their understanding of the Bible and even their sense of what it looks like to live in a way that's aligned with it. So for me, this is like one of the best investments we can make in the summer in the overall health and growth of our campus, right? Strong teaching ministry is vital to the health and growth of a community. A strong teaching ministry is dependent on strong teachers. If you don't have strong teachers, you will not have a strong teaching ministry. And if you have strong teachers, investing in them more is one way to make it even stronger. So one vital way to invest in our campus is to invest in our teachers. That's the idea. The teaching ministry at Lehigh is so much more than just the Sunday sermons. It extends to the music, the community group leaders, SMCCU teachers, teachers in the kids' classrooms, the student midweek. There are so many of us that teach in some capacity at this campus. And so what does it look like for us to invest in our teachers? That's the idea behind Night School, which is a name that I stole from my friend who runs something like it up in Portland. It's an entirely different thing, but I thought the name was sweet. So, Danielle, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. No, you're good. You're good. Okay, so we're talking about content tonight, and really the fundamentals is what we're focusing on with both content and delivery. Something people will say is that content is king, that at the end of the day, when it comes to whatever you're teaching, there's not much you can do to make up for lackluster content, that content really is what makes something either good or not good. The good news is what we're teaching from is like the one book that was the one collection of books that was actually delivered to us by God himself so that we can understand it and build our lives upon it. So theoretically speaking, we have the best source you could ever possibly have when it comes to developing strong, meaningful, life-giving content. But when it comes to taking that and packaging it in a way that actually helps people understand it, there's really three components, three fundamentals that make up creating good content. And it really has everything to do with explanation, illustration, and application. You could pretty much take every, you take an SMCCU class, 90 minutes, 8 weeks, you could look at every single minute of that and pretty much find how at some point what everyone's doing in the class is explanation, illustration, or application. You could do the same thing with children's ministry each and every Sunday throughout the entirety of the year. You could do the same thing with Sunday sermons, right? When it comes to the teaching content itself, explanation, illustration, and application are always the things that are taking place. And so what that means, the reason why that's good news is because if you can explain, if you can illustrate, and if you can apply, if you can do those three things, you can teach effectively. You don't actually have to master 1 million different skills. You don't have to figure out how to do 1,000 different things. If you can just do these three things consistently well, then you can teach effectively. And so, I know we got a lot of people here with teaching experience. Does that kind of resonate? Does that sound like something you've heard before? Okay. All right. So what I want to do is we'll have some chance to practice it once we get into things today. But first, I want to give us a couple of opportunities to see this at play. Because it's almost like the scaffolding in a building, right? Like if you work in construction and you understand how a building is built, you look at it and you can understand how the different pieces actually fit. I don't know anything about construction. I couldn't build a birdhouse, so I don't understand those things when I look at it. But when it comes to a sermon, the same thing's at play. So when you listen to a sermon, when you know explanation, illustration, and application are the pieces that are at play, you can see that these things are there. So what I want to do is play 2 clips, but I want to take some time for discussion after each one. The first one comes from a friend of mine who actually played like a significant role just in my own development. He actually taught the preaching cohort that I was a part of when I was a resident. But what I want to do is play a clip from his sermon, and then we'll break it down after.
The psalmist says that we can know the God of creation, the one who has revealed himself in all that we see. For he has revealed himself also in this book. For this book is the very exhalings of God. And when we find ourselves in situations where we don't know what to do and we wonder, God, what are you saying to me? God, what have you said about this? Or God, what have you said about that? God, what should I do in this situation? The first place we should go is to what God has already said. Let's go home on this one. Fritz Kreisler, born in the 19th century, was a famous violin player. He made a lot of money playing the violin all over the world. And yet he was such a generous person that he gave most of it away. So when he came to find a very unique and rare violin, he wanted to buy it, but he did not have the money to purchase it. So he told the seller that he would save the money up. Then he would come back to buy that violin, and so that's exactly what he does. He goes back to the person who was selling that violin, and he says, "Sir, I've got the money to buy the violin. Now I'd like to purchase that violin." And to which the person who was selling the violin said, "I'm sorry, Fritz, but I don't have that violin anymore. I sold it to a collector." So he said, will you at least give me the collector's address so I can talk to him about it? Maybe I can buy it from him. And so he gets the collector's address and he goes to this person's house and he says, sir, I've got the money to buy the violin. I'd really like to buy your violin. To which the collector says to Fritz Kreisler, sir, this is my prized possession. I would never sell this violin. It is the most important thing in my collection. Fritz Kreisler, sort of not knowing what to do, says, well, will you at least let me play it one more time before it's consigned to a shelf? So the collector of the violin says, sure, here you go ahead and play the violin. And Fritz Kreisler begins to play that violin, and it fills the room with such beautiful music that the collector says to him, he's so stirred with emotion, he says to him, you keep that violin and you play that violin. For that violin is not meant to sit on a shelf in a box. For that violin is meant to be played. That violin is meant to be heard. That violin is meant to make beautiful music. Friends, this book is not meant to sit on a shelf and collect dust on your coffee table. This book is not meant to sit for long periods of time in your bookshelves. This book is not meant to be the last app that you tap on your smartphone. But this book is meant to be read. This book is meant to be heard. This book is meant to be lived. This book, in so many words, when we live it, it makes beautiful music. For in this book, we meet Jesus, and through this book, Jesus meets us. Let's pray together.
All right, let's bring it together. I love all the conversation. All right. Okay, here's what let's just kind of hear from each group. What were the things that you took away? Maybe share one or two things. What did you notice? What resonated with you? What was helpful about that clip?
All right. Our group can go first.
Yeah.
So what we loved were kind of two elements. We were able to very quickly break down the explanation and stuff. We loved the turn of phrase between illustration and application of on the shelf.
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
they brought, the violin wasn't meant to be on the shelf. It was meant to be played. The Bible's not meant to be on the shelf. And so it was a really great, and almost that turn of phrase served as a, an exhortation / encouragement to bring that challenge to the audience. So I love that. And then we thought it was really cool that with the illustration, the violin story, we don't actually know if that's a true story, but Jesus used parables, and he didn't exactly use real people, but he used events and stories that were relatable, like this violin one, to bring truths of the kingdom. So to me, I think ours sort of freed up the idea of you don't have to research an actual event. Just make up a story that people will know and relate to bring home the idea.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I would bet this one is, when he reads a book, he has a thing of notes in the beginning where he's one of the best illustrators or heard, and basically he's living his whole life looking for illustrations. So every book he has an index of illustrations that he
he did, now that you say that, I'm he did say first and last name, blah, blah, blah. So,
yeah.
So sure.
Not that what you're saying is not true, but
I thought that was kind of cool. For me, it was kind of freeing. I'm it's got more philosophical as the story went on.
Yeah.
And so it was you really could just create stuff. As long as you're not creating strong memories,
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. All right, let's jump to this group. What did you all?
Well, I'm going to say Steve's thing for him. He said this guy is a great storyteller.
Yeah.
And I think that is key to really being able to draw somebody in.
Yeah.
To be able to be a good storyteller.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's so good, with the details and the smoothness of all of it. I'm actually.
Emotions. He brings in.
Yeah, emotion.
So we had movies going in our heads. And
Yeah. Okay, so I'm reading this book right now about scene structure, and one of the things it talks about is like a good scene, whether it's in a book or a movie or anything, it has a very consistent structure of whoever the viewpoint character is, which in this case it's the violin player. They have a goal that's introduced at the beginning of the scene. They want this thing, and for him the goal was the violin. He wants this beautiful violin, but then immediately after the goal is stated, what happens is conflict. And for him, it was a lack of finances. He can't afford it. He's doing what he can to get it. And then, essentially that's the tension that like hooks you and keeps you with the story, wanting to know how the scene is going to end. And then typically it either ends in like disaster, which is like the cliffhanger that keeps you reading till like 11:30 at night, or, there's a resolution. But he had those really clear pieces to like goal, and then conflict, and then resolution. And then, like you said, it wasn't a story just for story's sake. It tied specifically into a point, even down to like the language itself was tied in.
I see too, this showed me the significance of illustration and how he spent most of the time on the illustration piece, and I think especially for kids, that's something they will remember, and making that analogy and connection, it was so significant. So I think at first when you listed them out, I was like, what does that mean with illustration? But now I totally get it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, first we explained it, and then that clip illustrated it. So.
It's working.
Yeah, we're done. Yeah. All right, let's jump to you guys in the back.
So as we were talking through, we kind of came to the same conclusions, but then we also took that and went, okay, what other types of illustrations? So stories are great illustrations, but what are the other things we can use for illustrations? So we talked about similes and analogies and other things that we can use in similar ways to be able to create illustrations that allow us to define an application.
Yeah.
Depending on what we're trying to teach.
Yeah, absolutely. The red phone on stage, that I had, that's like a prop illustration. Yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do. Stories oftentimes one of the most compelling ways to do it, but there's many other ways. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, you want to jump to this group here? Are you guys? Yeah, there's technically this group in the middle. Okay.
No, we did this.
We're good. You were Catherine.
Yeah.
Was the group
Got it. Okay. The divisions aren't sticking with me. So, all right, let's come to you guys then on the end.
We don't have anything new to add. I wish I had something profound to say, but they covered all the stuff we talked about.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, we can. I actually like that kind of analogy, like with the true story for me, and then how it was persuasive but blunt and to the point. So there's no maybe we should, or this might be a good idea. It was more direct.
Yeah.
I like more
Action items after.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah, the direct application, you mean? Yeah.
Exactly what I mean.
He had really concrete language too, if you think about it, because he wasn't just saying you should read your Bible. He tied it in with the story in a way that got your attention. But then he's like, this book shouldn't just sit on a shelf collecting dust. It shouldn't just sit on your phone where it's the last thing that you touch at night. It's I think that's what he said. But he talked about it in ways that actually put it into the context of where the Bible probably does sit in our lives, where we don't necessarily do a whole lot with it. So.
I love that too. The key word was design. He said that violin was not designed to be on a shelf, and our Bible was not designed to sit on a shelf.
Yeah.
That was really cool because there's a lot about how we are designed, and the keyword design is a deep, deep word. When it comes to how you use it. You like it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yep. Yeah, you wouldn't walk away from that not knowing what you were supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. So now I want to look at one other one. So this one is Andy Stanley. who has a different style of communication. He's a well-known pastor and author from Atlanta. And with this one, he's kind of hitting a different idea. This one you see more of like the full, there's a bit more explanation happening. But again, look for those three things: explanation, illustration, application. And then also just kind of like pay attention to what resonates with you. What do you find helpful? What do you not find helpful?
The idea is this: instead of finding the right person, the real issue is, are you becoming the right person? This is huge. It's not a cute little statement. It's not a cute little phrase. This is the whole deal right here. This is what nobody told you. This is what nobody told most married people. This is why they date the way they did. It's why they do the things they do. It's why they wake up on the other side of marriage or wake up on the other side of a long-term relationship and go, what happened to the passion? You know, what happened to the pizzazz? You know, what happened to the fire? What happened to the fuel? You know, what happened to all the great stuff? Why are we like roommates? And it's because they went out trying to find the right person. They never spent any energy, any time becoming the right person. This is the new approach. This needs to be your new rule, and I'm telling you, it is life changing. When I was preparing for this series, I did several things to try to get ready for this. And one of the things I did is I met with 9 or 10 single people who are like thick in the whole dating thing. And I got them in a room and I said, okay, let's just talk frankly about dating. Okay, you know, it's been a long time. And so I want to understand. I want to understand terms. I want to understand experiences. I want to understand expectations. And I thought I understood all this, but I just, want to hear it firsthand from some really neat people. And one of the young ladies in that room told this story. And I feel like it explains and illustrates this point better than any other thing I've heard. She said, grew up in a religious home. Kind of had the Sunday school background and, the Bible and Jesus and God and that whole thing. Went to school, graduated, came to Atlanta and immersed herself in kind of the singles dating culture. And she said, it's not that I quit believing what I used to believe. It's just that I kind of took all of that and I just put it on the back burner. It wasn't like I had some religious epiphany, one night, Jesus is not the Son of God. It wasn't anything like that. She just said, I decided in terms of my dating and my relationships with guys, I'm just not factoring that in. So she's living the life, doing her deal, having fun, things that she, looked back on and said she wished she hadn't done. Anyway, so she's going along. So she's at some gathering. I don't know exactly what it was. And in this gathering were some people she didn't know, and she began to meet some people, and she met this guy. And she said this guy was like the total package. Those are her words. The looks, the job, the personality, everything. And she said as she began to talk to him and as she began to listen to him talk, it became very apparent he was a Christian. And not only was he a Christian that was figuring out and committed to living out his faith in his job, living out his faith in his relationships, and living out his faith in his dating relationships. I mean, he was very overt about that. Mature, good looking, everything. And she was like, wow. And she said as she talked to him, it brought back memories of some of the things that she'd kind of put on the back burner as she'd immersed herself in this dating culture. She said that really wasn't working out very well for her. Well, anyway, she left that party or that gathering, just wow, this guy. She went home. I don't know if it was the next day or, a few days later. She goes home and she starts telling her mom about this guy. She's going on and on how good looking he is and he's got this and that and he's a Christian and on and on and on. And she said that her mother turned to her and said, sweetheart, the problem is a guy like that is not looking for a girl like you. She said she literally fell to the floor in a puddle of tears. And she cried and she cried and she cried because she knew her mom was exactly right. And she said that was a defining moment for her as a single person. A defining moment where she decided, you know what? She's right. That guy that I'm kind of looking for, that I would never admit to myself I'm looking for, he's not looking for somebody like me. She said in that moment, she decided life change, priorities changing, values changing, friendships changing. I'm going a different direction with my life and how I date. Here's the question I want to leave you with tonight as we wrap this up in just a few minutes. Are you who? Are you who the person you are looking for is looking for? Are you who the person that you're looking for is looking for? In other words, you see, single people, if you were to sit down, you could come up with a list. I want him this way and her this way, and here's what I'd like her to have in her past. I don't want her to have this in her past. Don't want him to have this in his past. Don't want to have this kind of addiction. Don't want him spending his time on this. I want you. In other words, you know ideally what you're looking for. The question is, are you who the person you're looking for is looking for. Another way of asking this is this. Are you becoming? Are you being intentional? Are you leaning into? Are you trying to become the person that the person you're looking for is looking for? Or are you just playing the game of, well, someday I'm going to magically run into, I'm going to magically, mysteriously, providentially just meet the right person. And if I meet the right person, the right things will happen. It just doesn't work that way. It's a myth. That the correct approach, the approach that will serve you so well, is to decide, I'm not just hunting and I'm not just seeking. I am intentionally becoming. I want to be the person that the person I'm looking for is ultimately looking for. Now here's the interesting thing.
All right, let's bring it together. Let's discuss it now as one big group. All right. I'm gonna come to this group first, just because an opportunity. That's right. Yeah.
Andy Stanley, his teaching style, it seemed a little long-winded for us. We thought he could have got to the point quicker.
Yeah.
That's an important tip.
You couldn't have repeated the phrases 87 times if you did that.
Yeah. This is not a clever little statement, but it really is. Is that good enough?
Is that all? Yeah. Is that really all?
There's more, but I want everyone to have it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's go to the.
Like Catherine still.
Let's go to the back, and then we'll come through this way.
So I personally thought that the way he worded that last thing was, so you said what we didn't like, that's the only thing I didn't like was how he worded that last thing. It was too wordy and it didn't really stick with me.
Are you the person you're looking for? Is looking for?
That's what I'm saying, I can't even remember
Oh.
what it is. It was just not.
Yeah.
It just
The
didn't
person you're looking for.
Yeah.
Is looking for.
Oh man. A lot of people consider that to be like one of the best like big ideas that like it has ever been made in preaching. A lot of people do think that. So yeah. All right, tough crowd. So yeah.
Sorry, you can like it. So that was hard for me to follow. I started daydreaming because the low tone and energy in the beginning. I'm not somebody unless they're like,
Yeah.
like the first guy. Oh, I paid attention the whole time, but then I started like drifting, and I was like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be like, taking notes.
Yeah.
So that's hard for me, a preacher like that, honestly.
Yeah.
Man, Andy Stanley is considered like one of the probably top 5 preachers in America. So, yeah. But okay, I will say this. I feel like contrast plays a big role, because there were times where Steve was like slow and quiet and gentle, but he had more contrast in his delivery, whereas Andy Stanley was like fast, but it was like kind of same tone and same speed. There wasn't much variation, which I feel like plays a role. Caleb?
Comparison I found between both of them was they both had some point to where there was conviction like involved, like to prove the point
Yeah.
of the illustration. The first guy, it was more straight to you, right? It was direct with the conviction of we've all left the Bible on the bookshelf at some point to collect dust.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the other guy, Andy Stanley, he showed his conviction in the story, right? She was convicted by her mom. Maybe some of us felt that through the story. Then he ends it with a question to kind of make you think and self-reflect on that. It was ended with a thought-provoking question.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just a difference in how he got the conviction across.
Yeah. Like one was, I guess that was more indirect, whereas the first was more direct. Yeah.
I was thinking, I was saying, like, I don't think he was exactly talking about marriage, for myself. I was thinking, he's, the message who keep with me is, be the person that you want the other person's be.
Yeah.
Be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
don't expect the other person, but sometimes we expect so kindness, and we are not. So be the person that you expect that people
Yeah.
could be with you. That's why the message that keeps. With
Yeah.
me.
I feel like that's what that's his whole point. So, yeah, that's great. Yeah.
As long as we're on that illustration, so it's not our turn. I was thinking also about the fact that his illustration compared to the first guy,
Yeah.
Steve Cobble,
Yeah.
was it had a good landing, so it was like a bit shocking, so it wakes up people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it chose an illustration that could be controversial to me. So because some people may agree with him, some people may not agree with him. In the first case, the first illustration,
Yeah.
I think nobody would say otherwise. You know, it's everybody was like, that's true. We
Yeah.
put the Bible on the shelf too much and too often.
Yeah.
In this case, we were bringing the case that you can or cannot agree with this illustration. So you can we have the case if it's about marriage, maybe it's about
Yeah.
something else. But if it's about marriage, you can have an atheist can be in a marriage with a Christian, and it might be a rocky start, but the Christian might bring the atheist to the Lord. So so it's controversial. So maybe that's why it has less impact on the people.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I think that's really a good point. So when you're using illustrations, make sure that everyone will agree with them.
Exactly.
The controversial ones.
It has to be relatable to everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you expound for a hot second on what indirect versus direct connection?
Yeah, that was to what Caleb was saying. Basically, with Steve, he explained the point, he illustrated it with the story, and then the application was like, this book's not meant to sit on a coffee table or a shelf collecting dust, and so it was more direct. Whereas, and that was like the kind of the most significant point of conviction within his teaching. With Andy Stanley, the most significant point of conviction seemed not even to be the question at the end. The question at the end seemed more like thought-provoking. But the point that you maybe felt it the most, like where even us in the room, we like responded to it, it was in the story when the mom said to the daughter, a guy like that's not looking for you or something like a girl like you. Oh my goodness. Yeah. 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 And so that was... that was the most significant moment of like conviction or challenge, and he wasn't making it directly to the crowd. He was telling a story about a mom telling it to the daughter. So it was more indirect, which maybe was a good move because it was more controversial. Yeah.
There was no sugarcoating.
Yeah. But yeah, so both of them, very different speakers, talking about completely different subjects, but at the end of the day, what you see is the components they're using are exactly the same. It's all explain, illustrate, apply. And even 90% of the time, it's even in that order of explain, illustrate, apply. That's how it works. And that's, really at the end of the day, what that tells us is that if you can explain, illustrate, and apply, you can teach effectively. Yeah.
Your sermon is always this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can
For
I
sure.
bring Cielo pad in on Sunday morning
And just analyze? Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, that's a good one for next time.
Yeah. No, yellow notepads are not allowed in the auditorium.
He's like, I am staying in the
Okay, so here's what I want to do. We have explained it from the beginning. Oh, wait, did you guys not get to go?
We're good. I guess they said
No, go for it. Go for it. That's my bad.
We feel like everything has been said.
yes.
You guys feel like that? I don't know. Did we actually skip you guys in the back too?
Totally skipped us, but that's okay.
Do you have anything?
We're good. No, so the one thing we were talking about was the illustrations were very different in their trajectory as well.
Yeah.
So the violin story was very uplifting. Even when there was conflict, it
Yeah.
was still kind of moving in a positive trajectory. Whereas Andy Stanley's was like in the tank. It was like
Yeah.
nosedive.
Yeah.
Illustration, what you don't want to be. I'm going to show you what you don't want to be. As
Yeah.
opposed to, I'm going to show you what you want to be. And I think that goes back to the indirect versus direct.
Yeah.
But both of those illustrations really got to the emotions of the listener, and I think that's the thing that an illustration has to do, is get to the emotions. And then we were also saying that in the most effective thing in children's ministry, in this new curriculum, is where it asks people to, the kids, to act it out.
Yeah.
So they're emotionally getting involved with the illustration.
Yeah. That's good. There's some violent stories in the Bible, though, so we should watch out. But that's really good. Yeah. Catherine?
Okay, we have two things for this. Number one, so we had just chatted about what makes a good story. It's like goal, conflict. I added like journey.
Yeah.
And then resolution, right?
Yeah.
Example number one did a good job of here's the goal, then there was a conflict, there was a journey to get to the resolution.
Yeah, this one ended in resolution.
This one ended in resolution.
This ended in disaster.
That's why I think part of it was like cool, but if you're gonna like be clear, I think a good story needs to either be like tactfully out of order or it needs to stay in order, because then that's how people learn to learn from you. So because he went to like the journey for a while, and then there was the goal when she found the Christian, and then the conflict was bam.
Yeah.
It made it really hard to like focus on the resolution, because we're too busy like the reverberation in my brain. Of, I'm not the one he's looking for.
And he actually didn't even, like, he never got to he just, like, the disaster was the word from the mom.
The resolution is she was in his singles group, so she's still single. Because he interviewed her at the singles group.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's so good.
You're hit with that, and he says, and that was a turning point in her life. And after that, she decided
she's a single Christian.
Yeah.
X, Y, Z.
So there was resolution, disaster, then resolution.
But it was so brief.
Yeah.
It was right after
You're kind of, everyone's like reeling and gasping. Yeah. My bet is he shared the story about meeting with the singles as a way to show like he's not just a guy who shows up on stage, but that he's connecting with people and listening. My guess is that's why he did that, which actually gets into next month with delivery. Like what we're doing is based around Aristotle's rhetorical triangle of pathos, ethos, logos. It's a strong ethos move of trying to come across as more credible or demonstrating, like providing data that makes him seem more credible.
Can't that work against you?
It can if people are like, you're only saying that because you're trying to, it can. So you got to be careful with it.
I hope maybe I convinced my group. I don't know. I'll share it anyway. Like, I think that his, maybe this is more for, no, this is content. Because the content that he gave wasn't, and then the resolutions that he came to, I don't think were clear enough for the audience. Not only in, like, he's not what you're looking for, which is a total gut punch and a controversial move, but you also want to be in a place where you can bring the unity of the Spirit involved and is looking for is such a, like, people-pleasing move and does not revert back to Scripture in any way outside of, maybe the golden rule of, treat others how you want to be treated. I think, like, I don't know, like, an example of what a better phrase was like, the people you attract reflect what you value. And that way, it's less, like, cutting and, like, a jab of, like, be this because you're not good enough. It goes, look at your life, and let's open up the book of what your past was, which he mentioned. She didn't like what she was getting, and that way it's like, look at what you valued, look what you got, and look what you saw and loved. What did you value from those things? And then you can do, like, this whole, like, CBT approach of, like, what you value in these various areas. And I think that would have been so clear, and he missed it.
But remember, you're listening to 5 minutes.
True.
Out of a 25.
That's true.
So maybe
That's true.
Send me the whole thing. Change my mind.
Yeah. We need to. Andy Stanley is no good. But I get what you're saying, though. I feel like you guys actually touched on something significant back there, that that like the difference between the two illustrations, one was illustrating something negative and one positive. I think another way you could put it is both are saying something that I think if you drill down to it, they're both saying something true, but only one of them is actually saying something beautiful. And I would say Steve's illustration was beautiful in like a significant, meaningful way. I know that sounds like flowery language, but it was. Whereas Andy Stanley's, his presentation style is so clear, so clever, but I think if there's something lacking in it, it feels like it's lacking,
Substance, the heart.
I would say beauty is like the best way that I would put it. I think you could say,
Yeah, I would say the first one was like more felt, like you really felt for the person.
Yeah.
Give up like their violin, and like if you're a music lover,
Yeah.
telling somebody to give up their guitar, right? Like that's
Yeah.
heartbreaking. Whereas like, I don't know, I guess I'm married, and so I just was like over the single.
Yeah.
stage, and so it just didn't connect, and I didn't feel like bad for the girl, like in a way.
Yeah. You're like, she deserved it.
I was like, well, you did it with God first.
I would say, like, I think so many people have different backgrounds and perspectives and how they retain information. So some people might watch that and really like it. I really enjoyed it, and I was like, that's very practical. I like this. I'm gonna, some people are different.
Yep.
And some people like getting to the heart. Some people like direct. Like
No teacher will resonate with everyone.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not pretty.
No.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is shocking.
But it's necessary.
Yeah.
Jesus
You
Yeah.
get another 30 minutes onto it, you're going to turn it into a beautiful thing. That the mother was so harsh.
Yeah.
But she was, we hope, she was doing it in love.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have to disagree. I feel like there's a lot of beauty in coming face to face with reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of what I feel.
Yeah.
There's something beautiful about that moment of pain and like
Yeah.
realization. I think even if it's maybe not as artistic, but I still think it's just as beautiful maybe.
I thought he was like he was
Yeah.
holding a mirror.
Yeah.
I thought it was very self-reflective and like he was holding a mirror. And
Maybe artistic's the word then. Steve's felt more artistic.
yes.
Yeah. 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 All right. Okay, let's move on because we got to get to application. And we've got like a few. Okay. All right, what I want to do is actually give like an exercise that like who went to sports camp growing up? All right. Okay. All right. So the way sports camps works is like you're not going to get that much better at soccer in like 2 days or 3 days or whatever it is. You're not going to improve that much. But typically what the camps are trying to do is give you tools, typically in the form of drills that you can practice on your own when you go home. And when you practice those on a regular daily basis, that's the thing that actually helps you to improve over the course of an off season. And so when it comes to content, we've talked about how, all of the content in every teaching, message, it all breaks down to those three components of explain, illustrate, apply. The question is, how do we ourselves actually work at improving at those specific things? How do we get better at explaining, at illustrating, and applying? And for that, the exercise I want to give is actually something called verse drills. And so verse drills, they function like this. Basically, the way I do it is I just grab a proverb. I usually do this on like Monday mornings. And I'll take a proverb because there's not much exegetical work to do with a proverb. The meaning is typically pretty clear, right? If you take like a parable of Jesus, or if you take like a piece of an epistle or something like that, then you're getting into, okay, what does this even mean in the first place? But if you take a proverb, typically the meaning is pretty clear. So for example, let's take Proverbs 4:23, which is up on the screen. And it says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. I think the NIV's, above all else, guard your heart, for from it flow the springs of life, right? That basically the quality of your heart controls the quality of your experience of life. I just gave a big idea. Didn't mean to do that. But, yeah. Okay. All right. Here's what I want to do, though. As a group, let's come up with 5 big ideas. So a big idea, Steve didn't do this, but he does do this in his sermons as a whole. It's just we saw the little clip right at the end of it. But typically, your big idea is like your thesis. It'll be sometimes your bottom line, thesis at the start, or big idea at the start, bottom line at the end, or even just like a line that's really clear, that explains it in a way that's clear, that's portable, that's concise, that people can hang on to and remember. So, yeah, feel free. What's one way that you would try and communicate what this verse is saying? Above all else, guard your heart, for from it flow the springs of life. They don't have to, let me say this too. It doesn't have to be good. There's a book, Bird by Bird, by Anne Lamott that I think is super helpful. She talks about SFDs, sucky first drafts, but she has a different word. But basically, the idea is when you're trying to write, when you're trying to create content, it doesn't work to try and create gold right out the gates. If you do, you'll be staring at a blank canvas like for hours, and you'll never get started because nothing's actually good enough to put down. So the idea is you have to start with like trash and just get it out and basically rely on getting a certain number of ideas. And as you get the trash out, you get the water flowing, you get the ideas pumping, and the better ideas begin to come. And so the idea is, let's get 5 big ideas. 4 of them can be garbage, but if we get 5 out and 4 are terrible, chances are 1 will be good. So, anyone want to take a stab? Blake?
Your external behaviors comes from your internal world.
Ooh.
That's trash.
Oh, I have one. Me too, I have one. Go, Joy. Set boundaries. I don't know. Beautiful.
That's super short. Okay.
Social media, they gotta be short. Yeah.
Set boundaries.
Okay, mine is how you perceive is how you receive.
Or is it how
Press.
you receive?
How you perceive. I think I got it right.
See, it's guarding your heart first. So it's like internal, then intense. How you.
Oh no. Okay.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Oh, nice.
Old school. Love it.
Be aware.
Sorry. Your internal world matters.
Okay.
And you can't give what you don't have.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Everyone stop. No more.
We have too much trash.
6, 7.
Can't give what you don't
Yeah, that's probably good.
have. Okay. All right. Now here's the question. Do we want to take one of these and use it to illustrate and to apply? Which one do we want to go for? What's that? Garbage in, garbage out. Okay. All right. What's 5 ways that we could illustrate that idea?
Eating food.
Yeah, I was totally gonna say like.
You like eating food in the?
If you eat crappy food, you're gonna have diarrhea.
Yeah. So you could bring Taco Bell on stage.
okay, we have to end the show now because I gotta go.
A garbage disposal that
Yeah.
that you put the wrong thing in and it destroys the garbage disposal.
Garbage disposal. Catherine, what did you just, okay. Typically you want to stay away from anything bathroom related in like a teaching moment, but what you touched on was storytelling. Like you could tell a story that in some ways illustrates it.
Like just a bag, you know.
Yeah.
What if you had some words and you had a shredder, one that, you don't want that, but then the other ones that you do need to highlight.
Ooh. Okay. So these 2 are in like the prop category, which can be fun. They can be fun.
I think when you compare someone who eats healthy food versus unhealthy food and the outcomes.
So contrast. Yeah. Actually, I think we forgot to talk about that. Contrast. Contrast can be a really powerful thing. And so you could contrast
Like someone who veggies on the couch all day consumes TikTok.
Yeah.
Gossips versus someone who exercises, eats
You could do,
volunteer serves, I don't know.
so kind of what you're describing is like you could give a sketch of two different lifestyles.
Yeah.
And
Like someone who doesn't practice versus someone who does, and then they both show. Or you like get audience members who are like do you play soccer? Who played soccer? Who didn't? Okay, you come up. You come up.
yeah, audience
How about
interaction.
this ball?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's just shady.
Do you see why I haven't been a teacher so far?
All right. Okay, we got 4. What else?
Maybe like an analogy of putting water in your car for gas.
Yeah, yeah.
Engine blows up. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like you could make up a funny story about that, or find a real story about that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
You know, Paso.
ChatGPT gave me one.
Yeah? Doesn't count. I won't accept it.
Actually pretty good.
Is it?
I would never have thought of this.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna read the whole story, but basically it's a guy who has this garden in the middle of this town, and it's the pride of the town. And he's like the gatekeeper, the gardener, constantly pulling weeds, caring for the flowers, making sure everything's thriving. And eventually he gets overwhelmed by the responsibility of it all and decides what harm could it do to let the gate open for 5 days and just let anybody in.
Uh-huh.
And so he just starts letting people in. They obviously destroy the garden.
Yeah.
That's so brilliant.
Really quick. The story's really good, but I'm not gonna read it.
Yeah.
It's a really long story. So I'm not gonna read it.
Yeah. Hmm.
So I'm not sure how to put it down. When I was in high school, we did presentations for younger kids about bullying and drug abuse and stuff. And we had one that we did called Scraps, where you'd have a person come onto stage and trip and fall, and all of the people that came in would they would say something negative and throw it at the person. And they would throw these scraps.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally a person comes along and is helpful and helps them gather up their stuff and gives them positive scraps.
Yeah.
And then as they're about to walk off the stage, the person turns around and walks back and grabs a handful of the negative scraps and takes them with them. And somehow I feel it in here. I don't know how to
Yeah.
I don't know how to cage that, but I think there's a lot of stories.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to think out science even of like there's you know how you can chemically change things, but there's also the physical component. Like you can't change matter. Like matter is matter. You can't make more of it. You can't make less of it, kind of thing. So trying to figure out, and this is a very crude illustration. I cannot for the life of me think of another one. But it's like trying to dress up a pig, kind of thing. It doesn't stop it being a pig. So it's almost like that's like a sin exposure one, where it's like you can try to lipstick on a pig. I'm sorry, that's the right one. Me and my idioms, but like just that you could go science route when like you can't change the physical compound of something. Something you can shred a dollar. Well, you can actually shred a dollar and it loses its value. But like stuff about like I don't know, you can't have less. Oh, man, you know what I'm saying? Like something about. Like changing it physically doesn't change its value.
Yeah.
Thing, and it could be the turn of phrase with like something bad as well.
Yeah.
Gosh, that was horrible. Sorry, guys.
No. All good.
Or nothing
Okay.
political, but
If
the fake news, the fake media that brings bad output, people fighting or
Yeah.
whatever,
I think you might be more in the realm of application there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is good.
Don't ingest clickbait. You become
Yeah.
more reactive.
Yeah.
Could you go old school, like bring out like some armor of God, like verses and stuff instead of
Yeah.
use an illustration from like
Illustrate the Bible with the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like a character within the Bible who you know,
Oh, like
prodigal son or
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Was it Daniel where
Yeah.
Shadrach,
Shadrach,
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They're the ones who ate the veggies.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And they were strong and every one.
You can totally talk about Rat Shack and Benny eating too much chocolate.
Yeah. Okay. If we were to pick one, what would we pick?
I really like
I gotta
Taco
go with
Bell.
Dana.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Taco Bell would be kind of funny. And one way you could do it too is like draw it out with contrast. You could add contrast to the mix and put something else up there with it. Yeah. Like. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like a legit contrast would be like kale or something. Yeah.
From yesterday.
Take something healthy but good.
Healthy but good. Yeah, better than kale. Yeah. Okay, you could do coffee, and you could do Folgers drip
We're not all coffee.
versus like you could actually make like a craft cup of coffee. Yeah. Okay. Is this?
How does that follow the out part though?
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out.
The out.
Your experience is so much richer and better, and your life is more meaningful as a result of it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so how about this then? That's our thing. It'd be. Okay, and then garbage in, garbage out. Proverbs. Yeah, this is. You guys don't have to come on Sunday. All right, now application. How do we actually apply this?
You are Pee-wee.
Mm-hmm. But if you think about it, the food-related applications have more to do with the illustration, but the illustration is intended to illustrate the proverb, which is less about our physical body and more about, biblically speaking, your heart is like your mind, your will, your emotions. So kind of that center of who you are. But what you're saying is back in the realm of application, or I mean illustration.
So application, right now we're doing a digital detox.
Yep.
To limit the garbage that we're consuming.
Yeah, 100%.
And we can talk about things that we could put in instead.
There
right?
we go.
So we can talk about time to read the Bible and investing in quiet times and prayer.
Dancing out in the streets.
I actually got an email today asking me when I gave 5 tips for a great fast, why wasn't the Bible in there? I was like, because I wrote it at 6:30. I was tired. I wish I could go back. Yeah. Yeah.
You can maybe bring up like road rage as an example. Like in the same way you should stop yourself from eating garbage food. Try to guard your heart in a moment like road rage or like
Yeah.
getting angry with someone.
Yeah.
I wanted to make that the same thing, piggyback. The connection with the New Testament of when God gives a vision to Peter and says it's not what that goes inside of you that defiles you, but what comes out of you
Yeah.
that defiles you. And I feel like this would be a really good connection of you need to guard your heart because it's not about what you put into yourself, but it is you need to watch what comes out of you as a result. And if what you're and what's ingesting inside of you is turning you, is shifting you.
Oh, yeah.
Into something that flows is not biblical, not godly.
Yeah.
Then you check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah, so like road rage, if this is coming out, kind of like what's going in to cause that, or what's not going in.
Because even, oh my gosh, Priscilla Shire, she did something on this. She had a glass
Yeah.
She shook her own hand, and it was like, now people might ask me, like,
Yeah.
well, why did water come out? And it was like, that's not the question. It's because water was what was inside.
Yeah.
And so when life shakes you, what comes out of you?
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh.
Yeah. That's a good illustration. That's a great illustration.
That was stolen. It was stolen.
So really, that last part of the verse is medical terms. That's your thermometer of what's going on inside of you.
That's another great illustration. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, application can be tricky. Yeah. Digital detox, road rage, and those are.
Maybe like a summary big idea can be like, if you don't like your actions, like if your behavior and your actions are bad or like unwanted,
Yeah.
look internally, like try to analyze what's happening in your heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Or what you're consuming, or what people you're spending time with.
Yeah. Kind of like if you don't like what's coming out, look at what's going in.
Look at what's going in.
Yeah.
Well, say that again. Say that again.
If your actions are ugly, look at what's going in.
Okay.
You could do the Dead Sea versus the Sea of Galilee.
Ooh.
There's no outflow and there's one that does flow.
That is a wonderful illustration.
That's better than Taco Bell.
If you don't like what's coming out, check what's
Maybe
going
start
in.
with application.
I'm gonna keep eating.
I feel like application is honestly the hardest.
What about invest in the areas that are most important?
Mhm.
But you could talk about what it actually looks like to abide with God. Like, what does that everyday life look like to help guard your heart and fill it with good things so that good things flow from it?
Yeah.
But like we only get good things from abiding, so it's like that to me is the
What about like taking inventory? Like, what do you spend your free time doing?
Yeah.
That could be a really good way to think about the end part.
You can also tie it to your finances. Oh, what are you spending your money on?
Oh.
Are you tithing? Oh man. Where's your heart?
yeah, Jackie,
What can I say?
Amen, Jackie. Amen.
You can wrap it up by saying like, your body reacts this way to the junk.
Yeah.
You know, your heart is so much more important and so much greater value than your body, and it has a greater impact.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Like the good things, like the scriptures and all that, that's like your vitamins versus Taco Bell, it just comes in and out because there's nothing valuable in it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just
Taco Bell and just throwing me for a loop.
Yeah.
You could even just turn that phrase upside down. Like what goes inside of you directly influences what comes out of you. Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Even though, and that's where Jesus would be like, but Jesus said, it's like, yeah, it's not what goes into you that defiles you, but he's talking about in context of this. But in our day and age, what goes into us does impact people.
Well, yeah, and he says like what you say, what comes out of from out of the mouth the heart speaks, and so what comes out of your heart, that's a good thematic connection. Yeah.
And this is a big content. When you're putting out your explanation, illustration, application, do you ever go from the explanation to the application and then fit? Once you know where you're starting from and where you're ending up, then can you go to your illustration, or is it better to do ABC?
Yeah, I feel like it's almost like a more advanced move, if that makes sense, to begin changing the order of them. But so like it works if you just keep them in the same structure, but you can, and sometimes it's fun to mix it up.
Are you talking about authoring or delivery?
I was talking about authoring.
I think.
So I think in authoring it's almost easier to start with your application.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then you can go, this is what I'm trying to teach.
Then you know what your end
Well, like,
is.
let's go through an activity together.
Yeah,
This
this
is our
is
application.
this is the application I want to teach. what's an illustration that teaches that?
Yeah. The only thing is we want to make sure that application is biblical.
Well, right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. But even if we took this one and started that way.
Yeah.
We take Proverbs 4:23 and we say, above all else, guard your heart, for everything flows from it.
Yeah.
We take one of these and say, oh, well, what I really want to teach is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, like what, can you like help, I think I'm struggling with like the application. Like you were saying, it should be biblical.
Yeah.
What do you mean by application? Like the takeaway message?
Well, I guess broadly speaking, when it comes to like creating content, there's one way of doing it that's like, I want to teach this. Let me see if I can figure out a way to get a Bible verse that supports it. Or I want to teach what the Bible actually says, and so I want to start there and then develop my content out of that. Those are kind of two different approaches.
So
and
are we, like, maybe I'm totally, this is all new information to me, so I'm new here, but
yeah.
are we overthinking the application? Should the application piece be the easiest part?
Like
Just
the Bible?
restate what you need to teach.
Right, that's where I was headed, is, look, I'm looking at the verse. Can't I just restate the verse and that's my application?
What you want is people to walk out clearly knowing what they're supposed to do. So they could walk away saying, okay, I guard my heart. How do I do that?
Oh, some more it's action.
It's concrete instead of abstract. Yeah.
You did that illustration, right? Like you want to tie the illustration to the application.
Exactly, yeah.
Otherwise you're just like,
It doesn't have
that was
a...
great illustration, right? But also here's the point I started with.
Yeah. So let's pick one. Let's pick one and we'll tie it together real quick.
Digital detox.
Digital detox. Yeah.
So 12 hours into it and I'm struggling, so.
Yeah. So what we would say is, Proverbs 4:23 says, guard your heart, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And the Bible tells us that your heart is not just your emotions, it's your mind, your will, and your emotions. And so it's telling us to guard our hearts for a significant reason, because if you put garbage in, you get garbage out. For example, I swung by Taco Bell on the way here and picked up a chalupa because they're delicious. Now, if I eat this, I'm going to enjoy it and savor it in the moment. But we all know that I'm going to feel worse on the other side of this than I am going in. That's going to be the result, right? Because if you put garbage in, you get garbage out. And that's true not just physically in terms of what we're picking up for dinner. That's true spiritually as well. It's true in our mental life, in our emotional life, even in our relational life. If you put garbage in, you get garbage out. And so for most of us, our digital devices is kind of the avenue through which the most garbage gets into our hearts and into our minds. And so what does it look like for us to take a 12-day digital detox to basically stop the inflow of garbage and then turn our attention and open ourselves up to allowing good things in? So that we can experience what it looks like to have a heart that's well guarded, where good is coming in and good is coming out.
Wow.
But it's the nuts and bolts. Any one of us could actually do that with enough time, because we just work through the ideas. Like you can see, there's no magic to it. That was pretty bad.
It was definitely artistic.
Yeah.
Did you miss the mark a little?
Yeah.
So I really do have a question.
Yeah.
Do you really do what did you call it?
Verse drills.
Drills?
Usually
Do you
Monday
do that?
morning I'll do this.
So you do this like how long have you been doing this?
Not that long. I started it recently, but it's like super fun. Because sometimes I'll start, if it's like tied to a sermon, if it's tied to like a deliverable, I guess you could say, sometimes you're like, I can't come up with something good enough. And whereas this, it's just like, it's like going to the gym and like doing drills, like for basketball. And I love doing that. That's so fun. And so for me, it's like it's that same thing in a different context. So I find it helpful. And it trains me to think for illustrations and to look for applications and all that. But yeah, so that actually is your homework. Here's your homework. Pick up, I guess what I want into the summer, your homework is verse drills. And so let's say at least once a week, pick a verse in Proverbs. You could pick chapter 10, chapter 11, pick your favorite number, whatever it is, and just go one verse at a time. And for each one, 5 big ideas, 1 sentence, 5 illustrations, and 5 applications. And then you don't even have to draft out the whole thing. Just get like the phrases, right, for each one of them, and then circle the best of each. So once a week, verse drills, pick a proverb, pick a verse, 5 big ideas, 5 illustrations, 5 applications, circle the best. Just what we just did here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. And then you will pick one of those to basically be the content that you deliver at the end of the summer when we come together in August.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So we get to pick whatever verse. Picking a proverb. Picking a proverb.
Use proverbs. Use a proverb. Yep.
Any proverb?
Any proverb will do. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. This is so fun.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so glad. Okay, let me pray real quick, and then we'll close. Yeah. You can just record it. All right. All right. All right, let me pray. Jesus, thanks so much for the time together with this group. Thank you for the chance to talk about teaching. You know, something that you, for some reason, have made the decision that the primary way that your word, that your truth is communicated is through teachers. That teaching has been something that has been fundamental to inviting people into a relationship with you, helping people to know who you are, growing in a relationship with you. And so we thank you for the gift it is that we've been the recipients of so many other people's teachings in our lives, and that we too get to play the role of teacher in the lives of other people as well, that we get to be part of the teaching ministry here in such a compelling place to do ministry. And as we teach your word in a way that is faithful, that is persuasive, that we can see people growing in their understanding of it and their lives being changed as a result. And so, I just thank you for the fun time tonight talking through all these things. And I pray that over the course of the summer, as we're doing our individual work with this, and as we're coming back together for the night sessions, that we'd find a lot of joy, and we would even grow in our skills and abilities as teachers. And the result of it would be that people would grow even exponentially in this community in their understanding of your word as the teaching community continues to get stronger and stronger. And so we thank you and we praise you in your name. Amen. All right. Yeah.
Thank you. That was so helpful. Please grab
Oh,
some
yeah.
strawberries before you leave.
The notepads are for your verse drills. So make sure you grab one on the way out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for coming. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we could. They're basically just like the 2 rows, the back rows on the left. Yeah.